Everybody in the kitchen to help out tonight. All right, fellas, thanks for your ears here tonight. Just want to start off by thanking the rest of the coaching staff. I think we were really fortunate in being able to welcome Frank Longo to the school this year and the team. Met a lot of people in my time at this school, and your infectious energy and constant willingness to get involved is very, very special. I think Joey and Benoit definitely benefited from your energy and your expertise, but you're more than just a goalie coach. You've been a good friend to Guy and I think you've been a good friend and coach to the rest of the fellows here. So it was great having you this year, Frank, and we're looking forward to coaching with you next year. And of course, big thanks to Coach Guy. We've been coaching together for 6 years now, and in both official languages, English and French. We get along. Every day is real positive, and it's been a pleasure to be able to work with Guy again and with Frank. So I think we had a great staff. Merci beaucoup, Guy. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I just want to thank you on behalf of me. I just want to thank you guys for basically getting through the season. It's not just the coaching staff that makes this happen. You guys stay positive. I know how hard you work. I know you were doing off ice, and this really let me know that of all the hockey teams, you guys are the ones who basically kept at it and took it the most seriously. So I brag all the time about you guys and the coaching staff at our schools, and it's because you guys made the last 5 months work. So just thank you. Enjoy the night. Enjoy your teammates. But thank you for me for what you've done for this.
All right, so just a couple words about the year and everything we've been through. I think you all know that I teach history, and I'm a very passionate lover of history, and I love teaching students in the classroom. And when you mesh that with hockey and coaching, this has truly been a year that we're going to remember for the rest of our lives. Whether you came from Finland, from Czech, from Canada, the United States, we've all been affected by what's happened around the world over the last 12 months in very similar ways. And in many ways, it's brought everybody closer together. So when you look at what we've had to deal with, I can't tell you how impressed that the coaches and I are of all of you. From day one, wearing a fishbowl, something you're not used to. Something that you maybe frankly didn't want to do, but you did, and you did it all year without complaining. Then eventually having to walk around on campus all year with a mask. Then eventually having to practice with a mask. The number of restrictions, I can't even count them anymore, that all of you had to deal with. The moment when day students became boarders. The moment when you realized that you weren't ever going to leave campus because of all the things that had been in place. And when you really reflect and you think back of how everybody arrived, I mean, we spent, in some cases, days, in some cases, weeks, months, throughout the recruiting process to convince all of you to come to Stanstead College. And in 95% of the cases, everybody showed up in September, or eventually when they finally got their papers and were permitted to come into Canada. And I think that shows a huge vote of confidence by all of you young men to your dreams to come to Stanstead, your dreams to return to Stanstead, and to make this whole experience happen. Knowing that your sport and your hockey experience may not be the way you wanted it to be or the way that you envisioned it to be, I think we could all agree is an understatement. But to think back at what you guys have all done, leaving your countries, quarantining for 14 days. In some cases, some of you here have quarantined 2 times here and maybe 1 time at home. That shows incredible passion and commitment by all of you. So all that to say, you guys almost never complained throughout this year. You had morning practices twice a week, always once throughout the late winter, but at the beginning it was often. You often have an early practice on Saturdays. And your commitment to playing the game because you love playing it has truly been remarkable. It certainly hasn't gone unnoticed by Guy and I and Frank. And for that, a big heartfelt thank you to all of you for giving us everything that you've provided this group, yourselves, the team, and always being positive. So, thank you. There's going to be a couple individual awards here tonight, but I really have to echo that this year is really not about individualism. I don't believe it's necessarily about trophies or awards. Lord knows we didn't have much of a season when it comes to competition, but you are one of the few teams that got to leave campus and wear the uniform you're wearing right now. We got to go to Bishop's on 2 occasions. We hosted them on 2 occasions, and we got to play in a friendly 3-on-3. So, those were all post red zone initiatives, and we were able to do those things in October. So, in some ways, we were lucky enough to have a little bit of competition in a year where a lot of Canadians and a lot of Quebecers didn't have those opportunities. But as a lot of veteran coaches and teachers have talked about throughout the year, this is your athletic prep hockey team pin. There's a long-standing tradition at the school, 148 years now, where student athletes get to receive this pin, which basically is that symbol of being a member of a team, being a member of a group. And what does that symbol really represent? I don't know what these cost. It's, symbolic. It's a widget, probably made overseas. But this represents the jokes in the locker room. This represents, the late night talk about how maybe you don't want to go to practice. This represents, sharing a story. This represents all the good times that you've had coming to the rink, working out outside, Rocky IV style, right? In the winter snow, 4 days a week. Being a member of this team and wearing this, I think, is symbolic of all of the things that only you know what you've been through together, and I think that's pretty special. And I'd like the coaches to come up, and I'd like you guys to come up one at a time to receive this pin. Come on up, gentlemen. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Good job.
Merci.
Merci à vous.
Wilson. Sedzi. Thank you. Thanks, Benny. Go ahead. Thanks, Hayden. Thanks, Miko. Thank you, Jakob. Wider face, that's Kevin. Thanks, Max. Thanks, Denis. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Pokey. Thanks, Andre. Shoulder and back problems because it's too big. Couple words before a few individual awards. So, as you know, we have one 12th grader on this team, and then we have half the team that are in grade 10, 05s, and half the team that are in grade 11, 04s for the most part. We were fortunate, throughout the year to really have a nice divide. Grade 11 goalie, grade 10 goalie, and half the forward and D group on both sides for grade 10 and 11. So it allowed us to have a pretty even split. So a couple last thank yous. Obviously, the 11th graders, most of you have been here at least 2 years, in some cases 3. I think you guys provided, a real even keel calmness. There's a lot of quiet leadership in that group. You'll notice there's been no captains this year. Been no formal captain, no formal alternate captains. We didn't see the need to go through that, and we just quietly, worked with a whole number of real veteran 11th graders that have been helpful since day one. And same thing, a big thank you to the 10th graders. There's 10th graders on this team that have been at the school for 4 years, some 3, some 2. And there's a lot of great leadership in that group too. So, all that to say that some of you will move on next year. Some of you will return. Some of you will keep playing the sport that you love. But we're very appreciative of all of the commitment and initiatives and efforts that you all brought to this group. It really has been a great pleasure being your coach and getting up more often than not than in past years, as early as we've had to this year. So we're going to give out 2 senior S's this year. As I said earlier, what we look for as a coaching staff is really consistency. Consistency as far as just being a good teammate. It doesn't necessarily have to be the rah-rah guy, but in most cases there's a consistency on ice from start to finish. There's a consistency off ice. There's a good relationship with your teammates and coaching staff. And then there's a few little intangibles. So the first S is going to go to a towering man who I was able to get to come to school a little bit later than usual. He had to live through some pretty serious adversity at the beginning of the year. Rehabbed an injury, was out for virtually 6 weeks. And we only have 2 goaltenders on a team. That certainly puts the rest of the group in a bit of a pickle, and certainly gave his co-goalie a lot of extra ice. This individual, in our opinion, is the epitome of a hard-working kid. He's always happy, never high, never low. And in particular, I felt that when he came back after Christmas, he kind of kicked it into a second gear. In the outdoor training, he was a real inspiration. I think he was motivational, and he really set the tone. And I think a lot of people had to follow him because he really cared and was working very hard. It's apparent to us that he's committed to bigger and better things. We think he's got quite a future between the pipes. And that S goes to Benoit Forget. We're going to take pictures after. Okay? The second S to us as a staff goes to someone that's the epitome of change. I first met this young man 2 years ago, and last year this young man was a healthy scratch at times, was a 4th liner at times, but was always happy, was always positive, was coachable, always accepted the situations with grace, and continued to work hard all throughout the season. In my years of coaching, I don't think I've ever seen anybody make as much progress and improvement as this individual did from one year to the other. And it was clear that this individual spent a lot of the COVID off-season training hard, improving on ice. And throughout this particular era of no games and constant practices, always positive, always wanted to be the first on and last off. His feet are always moving. I think that's probably the one thing I would remember the most about him as a player right now. His feet are always moving. And if he continues to improve and progress the way he has, I think that'll be truly impressive. And lastly, I would say, don't change your character, don't change your approach, because you truly have been a good bridge from the players to us. Always positive. And I'm anxious to see where things are going to go for you in the next few years. And that's Hayden Pym. So since 2014, there's been a tradition at the school in athletics where there's been a series of sportsmanship awards that have been reconfigured. So every team in the school gets to award one of these. There's a lot of people that this could go to, because as I said earlier, I think we've been blessed with a truly amazing group of boys this year. But this is pretty unanimous amongst the coaching staff when we talked about it. This individual I personally have absolutely so much time for. He is honest. He never has any qualms with admitting when he did something wrong. I think he's super respected by his teammates. If I was playing on this team with you, I would want this guy as my teammate because I know that he would have my back and he'd be ready to go to war for me and everybody else on the team. And Lord knows he did that back in October when we needed to kind of take care of something, I think. And I think the storyline is that, you know, there was a consequence to what he did, and a lot of people would have taken it one way, and he took it with complete grace and spent the 10 hours the next day with you guys here. You're a beautiful kid. We love you. I think your teammates respect and adore you. This goes to David Lassalle. You're welcome, buddy. This is for you. Just keep it. Go for it. And lastly, this is a little bit uncharacteristic, but I'm the coach and I guess I'm allowed to do it. We usually have a senior night, and we usually honor any grade 12s on our team in our last home game. Well, we haven't had a home game since October, and we only have one senior. So if we do something in April, then we'll do a little bit of a rehash on ice. But I thought that this was a more formal moment, and I thought it was appropriate. So Ho Lee has been on this team and at this school for 5 years. He is someone that has come so far from when we first saw him and started playing hockey. And I think maybe no one knows this more than Coach Guy, because when he was back in grade 8 and 9th grade, Coach Guy would give him like weekly private lessons early in the morning. He's been a real good teammate. I remember after the grade 10 year, he came up to me and said, "Hey coach, you know, I know I didn't play much this year, but do you think I might have a more regular role next year?" And of course he did, and he did get a lot more time. Consummate professional, another kid who's really, I think, appreciated by his teammates. And there's a bit of an honesty behind you too. You've been able to handle certain moments that have not always gone well. Case in point, last month. And the last 4 weeks have been terrific. Scored some nice goals in practice. And when you came back to off ice that Friday afternoon, as soon as you turned the corner over there, you had 20 teammates that were all roaring, going, "Hey, Ho's back, Ho's back." And we welcomed you back with open arms. 5 years at Stanstead's a big deal. 5 years in this program is a big deal. And I wish we could do something out on that blue line with the whole crowd there, but unfortunately we can't. But Ho, we just wanted to give you a little souvenir and thank you for all you've done for the school. About 4 years ago, we were on a road trip, and Alexi Daniels, a little kid in grade 8, and he goes, "Hey, sir, did you hear the song?" I'm like, "No, listen. Holy, 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 I'm high on the Thank you.
Big picture.
Coaches, final words?
No, Shane, you know what? Just like James said, this all year long, we didn't play no game, play with a mask. It's not easy, practice every day. Wake up on Tuesday morning all the time. Guys, it's not easy, eh, goalie? No, thank you for the nice here.
Yeah, no, going off that, boys, it was a pleasure. Every single time coming to your dressing room was a lot of fun, especially your old music that I used to listen to when I was 12. So, it was a lot of fun on the ice, a lot of laughter, a lot of smiles, and I can't thank you guys enough. So it was a great time.
Boys. Study time.
Okay, fellas, how about a thank you to the community?